Welcome to the Evans Legacy Financial Podcast, where real people have real conversations about money, mindset, and making moves. I'm your host, Jake Evans, and this show isn't about fluff or hype. It's about educating our community, sharing stories, and giving you the tools to make better decisions in business and in life. Let's dive in. Good morning, everyone. Again, to the Evans Legacy Financial Podcast. Today's theme is leadership, growth, and building a career rooted in persistence and adaptability. My guest today is Mike Bronze. Mike, welcome. How's it going?
Doing good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you, man. Thank you again. You know, I'm going to give you a little something about Mike, from wrestling mats in college to leading thousands of moves each year. Mike's journey is not anything but ordinary. What started with a leap of faith at Meathead Movers turned into a career built on grit, growth, and leadership. Today he oversees a team that impacts thousands of families, all while balancing life as a husband and dad. So, Mike, what was it like growing up Fresno, Clovis area?
I mean, pretty typical. So, Clovis, went to Buchanan High School, so nothing crazy, pretty standard time here in town. But, it's, for me, it was definitely like the sport of wrestling. Everything's always been kind of, you're by yourself, so it's always like it's about the work you put in for the results that you get, so you only get what you earn. It's
not a team. It is a team sport, but it's your points and everything are based on your individual effort.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, okay. So it all comes down to what you're willing to do, what you're willing to sacrifice, and so for me, that's always kind of just been my mindset on just life in general.
That's funny you say that, because it kind of goes into our next question about how did wrestling shape your discipline and work ethic, and that makes sense. That you always had to look out for you and what you were doing. So tell me how that, you kind of did, but tell me how that worked, how it shaped your discipline.
Yeah, no, for me, I was just obsessed. Like I enjoyed it. So it wasn't a chore to do things and to go out there and work and do more. And so when I'm obsessed with something, I put my mind to it, and there's nothing that's going to stop me from continuing doing what I'm trying to do that day. And so, with wrestling, obviously you have to be very, very disciplined in your day and your regimen and your diet and everything like that. So everything's always constantly, looked at and critiqued and improved upon. And so it's very simple to kind of roll that over into just anything else that I'm doing. Only difference is, now you're not trying to starve yourself and lose weight in the process. It's just, you're going from a physical aspect that you're trying to overcome to now it's more mental mindset, which again, obviously wrestling has a lot of that, because you're trying to, beat someone, trying to accomplish something while also under a lot of physical, mental stress of the sport itself. And so it just kind of goes side by side.
There's a lot of psychology. I had a cousin, Matt Francis, who was a wrestler, and he showed me a lot of stuff in that, but it was a lot of head games. It was a lot of getting in their head and really psychological. So I get it.
No, absolutely. And there's a lot that comes down to, especially if you lose. Right, which I did plenty of, and so to lose and then to get back up and to say, okay, what do I need to do better, and trying to improve off your failures, but have the positive mindset to just say, okay, yeah, I lost, but I need to take the next step forward.
Well, and I think part of my show is about helping families and building leadership and growth, and loss really is, and I don't think people realize it, but loss really is the touchstone to progress and movement.
Yeah,
it really is, because if you don't lose, you don't get better. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So I get that. So what did you learn about yourself from those early years balancing school, sports, and work? And I understand you worked at a grocery store.
Yeah. So when I moved away, I went to college out in San Luis Obispo at Cuesta College, junior college. Wanted to keep wrestling. Again, just obsessed with it. And so at the time too, I was working at a Smart and Final. Absolutely hated it, but essentially. I'd go in, I would do stock room. So we would be, stocking, the late night shipments. I'd be there from, 8 o'clock at night until 2 o'clock in the morning, have practice at 6, study hall at 8, class at 9. So basically just pulling an all-nighter 2 times out of the week. And it came down, there was this one manager who frankly didn't know how to manage. He basically kind of just gave me like an ultimatum, like, hey, like you have to do this, next level of training to promote, or you can't work here. And so I told him, I was like, okay, well, like what's required of me? He said, oh, well, it's going to be, Monday through Friday from this time to this time. I said, well, like, that I have class. I'm in college. I have class. You know that I have wrestling practice. And he's like, oh, well, like, you're just going to have to miss it. And I said, okay, well, sorry, I'm not going to work here.
Right.
And so that's, so I left. And so, it's a lot to manage in the day to day, but I don't know. For me, it was school came easy.
So you transitioned from the grocery work. Did you go right into Meathead, or
it was like probably like a week and a half?
So how did that quitting the grocery store job and joining Meathead influence your career path? And I know you had some. We'll talk about what you did in the middle of that, but how did that influence that career path?
Yeah, so Meathead. What's great about Meathead? We've always been, we're athlete movers. So our owners, they wrestled at Cuesta and Cal Poly College, and so they're big sponsors of the two programs as well. And so we even have our annual tournament called the Meathead Invitational in San Luis Obispo. It's one of the largest junior college tournaments of the year. And so I've always knew about Meathead at this point. And so I had just, went down there. They would come to our practices like once a year and say, hey, if anyone's looking for a job, we'll work around like your practice schedule. You'll never miss practice. You'll never miss a tournament. Like, we'll work with you.
So they basically recruited wrestlers.
Oh yeah,
and sports. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, they let us know like, hey, if you need help and you're looking for a job, we love people who with the right mindset who come in here. And so I was like, yeah, let's do it. Like, I need a job at this point. It's expensive to live in San Luis Obispo, and I'm like, moving furniture. How hard can it be? And so I went in, interviewed, went through the process. It was pretty quick. Started like a week later. And kind of the rest is history at that point. So, I started as a mover. Again, I was still finishing my last year at Cuesta. So at this point, I've been living in San Luis for already 2 years.
What was your major in college?
I was a kinesiology major with an emphasis in sports physiology.
Okay. Yeah. That's very cool. So you get started in Meathead Movers. So what was it? So tell me the day in the life of Meathead Movers with a guy at the bottom starting out, helping over 800 families.
Yeah. So we would get we call them our confirmation text. Basically, you get notified the day before, like, hey, you're on this service. You get a little excerpt of like what the service is looking like. Okay, it's going to be a 2-truck service. It's, we're moving a family who just bought their first home. They have, 2 kids and a dog. There's going to be stairs at the house. Like, you kind of just get a quick overview of what to expect for the day. Show up in the morning during dispatch. It's usually a quick process. It's all right, double check all your materials. Do you have your mattress bags? Do you have all the tape that you need, your pads? Is the truck fueled up? Is the oil good? Like, okay, we're good to go. Is everyone on your crew here? Okay, dispatch should go. Start time 9 o'clock at the house. And so our dispatch is overlaid to make sure that our crews arrive at these homes like, by 9, or at least as close to 9 as possible. And so, that would be kind of the process. And then you get there, you do the walkthrough with the client, and you just start moving furniture.
So these guys were smart, the owners of Meathead Movers, because they took guys like you who already were trained in a mindset and some psychological stuff, right? Yeah. Who were strong, who were athletic, and they put them into a place where they could use that discipline, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so very cool. So what lessons did you learn on the ground that prepared you, in the beginning, that prepared you for leadership?
Yeah, I feel like for the most part, I've always kind of had the mindset for leadership. I've always kind of been one who's lead by example type of mentality. I don't ask of people anything that I don't do myself. And as you develop into, we call it our mentor or our team captain role, where you are running these jobs, there's different routes to do it. And the best way is, like, again, kind of being hands-on, not just directing people, but being able to direct and do at the same time. So, as the team captain, you can learn how to, okay, hey, I'm going to multitask. I'm going to have my crew go over here and work on this room while I work on this room. And then I already know that I'm going to be moving this piece into here because I've been playing Tetris in my head the entire time. And I know it's going to fit exactly in these spots, right? So you start kind of thinking that way. And for me, it just allowed me, you have to be detail oriented in a fast paced environment. And so I feel like that's just kind of what allowed me to do it. And I mean, if you go back to your questions about like how wrestling kind of shaped me for that. When wrestling is a fast-paced environment, but you have to be very detail-oriented with everything that you do, in a match, because then one mistake is exposed, just like with any like grappling or fighting sport or anything like that.
Okay. So there was something in here, and I didn't get it in here, but I'm going to inject it now. Is you had some time there. Where does your work with the police and fire and health and fitness and that come into all of this to this early stage? Where does that come in?
Yeah. So basically, I had finished school at Cuesta in San Luis Obispo, and I was going to be moving back home to Fresno and just finishing school at Fresno State and continuing my my studies in kinesiology. It just happened to be the same summer that we opened our Fresno branch. And so I was like, cool, I don't have to go looking for a job when I move back. I can transfer over there. And so I was able to kind of help be like kind of the cornerstone of what it meant to be a team captain here for a brand new branch who doesn't know, the Meathead way, right? I mean, Meathead started in San Luis Obispo, so it's like that DNA is just ingrained in that branch. And so I got to be a real big integral part on developing that here. And so I did that, and I finished and graduated school. And we've always said, like, we don't want career movers. We see our company as a stepping stone position, stepping stone career, and basically everything lined up for me to get a job offer towards the end of my senior year of college. And that's where I had gotten the offer from, it was called Pinnacle Training Systems. And so from there, once I graduated, I got that job offer. I left Meathead and I started working for them immediately after I graduated. And for there, what I did with them was I managed health and wellness contracts for various police and fire departments. So most specifically, like Clovis PD, Fresno Fire Department. Those were kind of two of our largest ones. But I also managed contracts up in San Leandro PD, Palo Alto Police Department, Alhambra Fire Department. We had a short stint with CAL FIRE. I was actually in Paradise the day of the Paradise fire started.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. With CAL FIRE, we were doing health testing, and it all kind of happened really quickly. And like, all right, yeah, you guys got to go. And so that's kind of what started that. And so I did that for 4 years, and it was a lot of fun. Met a lot of really good people. I really loved working with the guys that I've met. Different police and fire captains. Like, I've met a lot of really cool people, really cool backgrounds over the years. A couple of them now are in real estate too, so it's fun getting to see them when I'm out and about here in town. And yeah, so I don't know, it was just it was a good time. And it's not so many people get to actually graduate with like their emphasis and degree and actually fall into what they studied. So
I'm seeing that again. I'm going back to this Meathead movers and the owners shaping. So if you guys are looking to be shaped into some kind of a career and not looking to sit somewhere forever and help, Meathead Movers is a place to be. It sounds like these guys took guys out of college, put them in a place, taught them discipline, helped them, shape their discipline that they already had because they're already athletes, right? And then took them and says, okay, you're not going to stay here forever. We're going to mold you into something that can be helpful to the community. And I love that.
Yeah.
So then you kind of did the what you went to school for a while.
Yep.
So what motivated you to move into the sales side of business and stop doing your kinesiology stuff?
Yeah. So I mean, it was kind of a combination of things. So we were coming towards the end of COVID. So that was a crazy time. Our company did a massive pivot. We actually got super involved with COVID, doing COVID screening, COVID testing. There was a lot going on at the time as far as, my previous employment. And I felt that I was probably at the peak of what I could achieve there in order to support my family. So at the time too, we're getting ready to close on a house. Took advantage of those low interest rates when we did. The pandemic canceled our wedding. We ended up having kind of like a pop-up short wedding, just us and close family. We were expecting our first child.
Wow. And
so I was like, we were looking at like, okay, right now finances, we can't do this without both of us working. And with you working, you're essentially just working just to pay for childcare.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, hey, I want to do something different. And I knew I had been wanting to get into sales. I have a lot of family in sales, and it's always kind of been a better background for them. And so I knew I wanted to get into sales. And one of the first things I started looking at was like, okay, where do I take the step? And a lot of individuals, it's usually, they want sales experience or some sort of business degree. Like, great, I have neither. But I had, I stayed on top of Meathead's socials, and, I've stayed close with our owner, Aaron, over the years. And I just happened to see that they were advertising their sales institute, where they advertise that, hey, no sales experience needed. We'll teach you sales. We'll work on you. We'll set up, proper tactics with you and line you up for success. Now, it was always advertised that it was just out of their San Luis Obispo branch. So I had reached out to Aaron and just told him, hey, man, see how well everyone's doing, and any chance you would have something like this in Fresno, or is this just going to be at your headquarters? And he was like, hey, can I actually just have my director of sales reach out to you tomorrow? Great. Sounds good. Calls me. They had just parted ways with their sales reps here in Fresno, who go out and do the actual in-person estimates. Aaron and I had a really good working relationship when I was there the first time. Again, like I said, I had a pretty large part in Fresno's initial success on the operations end. And so they're like, hey, this is what we're looking for. Like, here's the expectations. We're going to be developing a new outside sales program. Like, we understand you have no sales experience, but here's what that path would look like. And so I went through a couple interviews with the rest of the executive team and started 2 weeks later.
So you mentioned, you said a word in there, a good relationship with the owner, and that's key. I mean, today your business, my business, is all about relationships.
100%.
Anything in sales, it's not about selling anything. It's about building relationships and actually wanting to help who it is that you're in front of.
Yeah.
And becoming friends with.
Yeah. That's it's funny you say that. That's the number one thing that I always preach to my sales team. It's like, it's not transactional relationships. Like, you should be friends with these people, right? Like, people work with people they like. Like, you should be able to, you should have a handful of people or a large list of people in your, in your phone that if you wanted to, you could probably call them and say, hey, do you want to go grab a beer? Right? Like, and like, they were like, yeah, sure. Yeah. Like, let's do it. Right? Like, you should be able to have those types of friendships, those levels, high level acquaintances, to do that. And that's, if you can't achieve that, I don't think you'll be successful in sales.
Okay, good. So what was it like to coordinate 1,000+ moves as a territory manager, and what challenges did you face shifting from mover to manager?
Yeah, so I mean, for me, as our territory manager, even though it says manager, it's just our regional sales rep is what it is, right? So you guys saw me here in town, again, at every event, talking to everyone, building a foundation, building my name, because basically the way that we work is our territory sales reps, our performance is rated based on the business that I can develop, not who calls just our 1-800 number, right? So if people are calling me and asking, hey Mike, hey Tiago, like, this is what I need, this is what I want to do, that's how our performance is graded. And so we know, like, okay, hey, it's all about what do I bring in, and I'd say for me, it was pretty easy. And the main reason why is because I know Meathead so well, and I know our products so well, and I know how we do things, and I know the way that it's meant to be done, that it's just very easy to explain what it is. And I feel like that it kind of sells itself at that point.
Well, and there you got it right there. So I made a little note here, is when I met you, we became friends rather quickly because I think we're both of the mindset that it's about the relationship. It's about, I saw your performance. You never once asked me if any of my clients needed to move. You lived and walked what you believed in, and that's where the success came from. I believe with you. No sales pitch, nothing like that. Because right now we're going to talk after the show, because my mom's getting ready to move.
Okay.
And she needs to move to Sacramento, and I'm like, okay, let me talk to Mike and see what's going on. See, I already know somebody who's a good mover, and it's going to cost her less probably than the other guy, and so that right there, building that relationship was key.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so what does your role look like now as you oversee 5 sales managers and 2,500 moves a year, 2,500 plus actually?
Yeah. So now it's I'm a little bit on the road. So I was in, I was in Ventura a couple days ago. I was in San Luis Obispo yesterday. I'm going to be in Temecula all week next week. I just hired a new sales rep in Orange County who will start Monday, so I'll be down there all week training them. So a lot of travel, kind of working with my team, helping them kind of develop and improve and set up their skills and everything like that. And so basically it's just, it's taking what you guys have seen me do here in Fresno and try to apply that to all of our branches. And so that's what we've been doing. So our outside sales program, we started it 6 months after I came on, and that's when I was just the sales rep. That's when you guys first started seeing me over at the association, and it's been a lot of trial and error. Trying to.
Well, it is.
Yeah, it's a lot of trial and error trying to develop individual business, right? And again, like for the most part, Meathead is a household name. Most people know who Meathead is, and so one of the things that we've been working on is like, and working with my reps, it's like, hey, when you're out there, Meathead is second. It's you first and then Meathead, right? It's Mike Bronze, then Meathead. So then when, like you said, hey, your mom's getting ready to move. Like, well, let me call Mike, right? You didn't say, let me call Meathead. You said, let me call Mike.
Exactly.
Right.
See, that's the key. And I want to talk to my listeners about that really quick is that's the key to success in anything. It's not just business.
Yeah.
But it's in that if I need something or if I have a need, I'm going to remember. If I remember the name of the person that's going to do what I need, I'm going to call the person, not the business. And that is key in building. It's like I want people to be able to say when they're get ready to sell or buy a house, or when they need a mechanic, or they need because I do a lot of stuff. So,
Yeah.
or when they need a notary, or when they need financial, stuff. Then I'm going to call Evans Legacy Financial. No, I'm going to call Jake. I'm going to call Jake's Notary Service. No, I'm going to call Jake. I'm going to call directly to the person. And that's I love that you said that, because I did. I said, hey, let me call. I got this guy, Mike. Mm-hmm. I got this guy. No, I have this business. Let me call Meathead. No, I'm not going to say that, because you've built the relationship already. Yep. And I like that. That's key. So how do you approach? Now, I know there's a lot of different approaches to it. That's mm-hmm. why we're all individuals.
Yes.
And we get to do it, not our own way. There's a company way, but you get to add your own flair to it.
Yeah.
How do you approach leadership and team development as Mike?
Yeah. So for me, it's, I'd say for me, it's, give people their roses when they need them. When you criticize with understanding. And for me, I've always kind of been big on discipline equals freedom. If you're doing the work and the effort's there, I'm going to support you and help you in every single way that I can, mm-hmm. right? If, hey, here's the work, I did the work, I didn't get the results, okay, let's perfect your craft.
Find out why.
We'll find out why.
Because here's something that we're trained here is you as well, you provide solutions, mm-hmm. moving solutions.
Yeah.
You can't provide a moving solution unless you find the problem. So if there's a failure somewhere, that's the problem. Now let's get the solution. You have the solution. So you can be a solution-oriented person all day long, but without identifying the problem, you're never gonna fix it.
Yeah.
Because you have to identify the problem before you can apply the solution to that problem. And that's what I see you're doing, is you're applying the solution that you've been trained or have trained yourself mentally, physically for, to be able to apply it to whatever situation comes along. And as you grow, more of those solutions come, and as those situations or those problems pop up, you're able to apply those solutions.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So what have been your biggest business wins, wins in business development so far?
I think one of the, for me, one of the more fun ones initially was when I won Affiliate of the Year. Mm-hmm. And the main reason for that was because the previous year, Lisa Swenning, she had won it.
Right.
And I had told, at the time I wasn't the supervisor, so I had told a supervisor of mine, I was like, hey, Lisa, like this Lisa person over here, like I'm trying to do exactly what she's doing. Like she's killing it. She's everywhere. Like everyone knows her. Like that's the person who I want to implement. So shout out Lisa Swinton if she listens to this. Like a lot of what she's doing, like I've tried to copy and emulate what she's done as far as being part of the community and being like face to face with as many people as possible. But so when she won that award, at the time I had a couple coworkers with us at the FAR luncheon that year when she won it, and I told them, I was, hey dude, I'm gonna win that next year. And
Speak it.
I just say I'm gonna win that next year. Like we're gonna be a force to reckon with. We're gonna win this next year. We're gonna be the standout affiliate. We're gonna be the standout moving company. Which we are. And so when it happened, like it was just really cool. Like you said, speaking into existence. And so that was a really cool kind of like individual personal win, because I knew like my effort was rewarded. Like what I was doing was recognized, and so like that was a cool win. And then I'd say for me too, probably in the last year or so, it's my biggest I'd say wins has been the growth that my team has had. We've had some exponential growth on outside business development over the years. This was a program where honestly our company was like, hey, we might have to go a different direction with this. And it took us some time. It took a lot of grinding, but we were able to have like a growth year of over like 120%.
Wow.
And
and therein is that again, problem solution.
Yeah.
You couldn't apply the solution until they presented you with the problem.
Yeah. And so so right now again, my team's on pace to have another growth year this year, and things are still looking up. Even with where real estate is and where the market's at, like our company is still in a very good spot, and a lot of that is majority of that's our executive team, like what they've been able to do. And we kind of predicted a little bit of the market dip, so we actually did a lot of initial consolidations while the market was still kind of hot, end of 21, early 22. And we started right-sizing and trimming the fat on a lot of our processes and procedures to help reduce our overhead on a monthly basis. So once we started seeing those significant dips in real estate, and we saw these really high 7-8% mortgage rates, we were prepared because we were already right-sized. We were able to handle the decrease in amount of services. And there's a lot of moving companies who went bankrupt over the last couple of years. Like they weren't able to withhold what's going on in the economy right now, where we've actually had growth years. And so it's key for us, just being able to do that.
So that mindset right there, and I just wrote a note right down here that how you won that was shadow the winners.
Yeah.
You shadow the winners. So that last mindset that you were talking about, and we're going to talk about balancing work and family. So how do you apply that? Because we're going to get into a little bit of personal stuff here.
Yeah.
And this is for our listeners, because what you're talking about, trimming the fat and all of that, can be applied to somebody's personal life, their own finance in their home, things like that, helping yourself grow and able to save money or able to trim the fat. Okay, so I don't need a Dutch Brothers every morning.
Right.
I don't need a Starbucks every day at lunch, or I don't need to go to lunch every day, So how do you apply that? Or how would you tell our listeners how to apply that to your own personal life?
That's a great question, and I don't think I have the perfect answer. I think right now, same thing. It's trial and error for us too. It's just open communication between my wife and I. Setting realistic expectations, but also still striving for having those wants. And being able to, have that occasionally too, and making time for that. I'd say for us, I think honestly what's kind of helped me is actually being a part of the association, going to all these meetings, and actually just learning more about real estate, learning more about finances, investing, and people. Yeah. And so it's just, it's been, I'd say that's probably, what's helped me, we our uncle just helped us sell our house recently, and we just bought a new house, or we're in escrow for a new house right now.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. But same thing, it was taking, we had a great interest rate, but the equity allowed us to upgrade our living.
Right.
And our monthly expenditures are going to be close to the same, if not slightly better now.
That's important. And I want to key in on that really quick. Just because you have the lower interest rate and you have a bunch of equity, there's an offset there that allows you to get a higher interest rate and keep your payment the same or lower on a bigger place. That's a possibility. So people are always saying, well, I don't want to sell because, I got a 2.75% and I don't want to go to 6.5 to 7. Yeah. Well, you can, because the rate will always change, but your payment, you can always fudge that because you have a bunch of equity. You can play with. There's places to play with that.
Absolutely. And then right now too, as you guys have seen, there's sellers offering lots of credits. There's different programs. There's buy down options. There's all these things out there right now. And so that's kind of what we got. Again, we got a new construction, and we got a pretty significant buy down, for us to get that house. And again, that was concessions, offered by the home builder, and it for us it worked.
So I want to get a little bit more depth into your own psyche or your own way of thinking. Yeah. What's the most important lesson you want Bo and Jet, and those are your two sons, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That you want them to learn from your journey? If they were to look back and see a video of Dad's life, what do you want them to learn? Because they're going to listen to this one day.
Yeah. Let's see. What would I want them to learn? I would say I would want them to learn to not fear failure. I am, and my wife can. I like to solve everything, and I like to solve it to the best way possible the very first time, every single time. So I have tendencies to overanalyze, overthink. Most of the time I should probably just pull the trigger. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Now I know. Right, so there's probably been times over my life where I probably wasted time trying to find the perfect solution rather than going with a gut instinct and then, seeing what happens and then adapt from there. And so for me, the perfect incident where I did that was making the leap, quitting my job and jumping into Meathead, because it was, like I said, I had no sales experience. So I know Meathead, but I had no sales experience. So I'm like, I have no idea what to get into. When I went into the first, week of training, I going through all the numbers and everything. I'm just like, I don't know how I'm going to remember all this. And I was, just getting overthinking everything. But just that initial leap of faith was exactly what we needed. Again, and being here at Meathead then led to me being able to have my wife, my wife's a stay-at-home mom.
Nice.
We don't pay people to, raise our kids. We get to raise our kids the way we want to in our home. We have to be more disciplined on the financial end because of it. But for me, it's 100% worth it. Just the kids are home with her. She gets to be with them. We have a set mind on how, we feel they should be raised. And I'd say, if I had continued to overthink that and overanalyze, but I don't have sales experience, maybe I shouldn't even apply or reach out to them and waste their time. If I'd never gotten over that initial just fear of failure, we wouldn't be where we are today.
Exactly. And I like that. Years ago, I'm going to share a little bit about my own experience in that same aspect. I had a mobile mechanic business, and I was working with a car lot, and it was kind of rocky anyway. And I was doing about $3,000 a month with them, but I was doing $3,000 a month for 60 to 70 cars and running back and forth all the time. And it was I don't want to do this. And a friend of mine said, why don't you just drop them? I said, but I'm dropping $3,000 a month. He goes, do it and see what happens. And so I was able to drop that. Just one day I went into them. I said, this is going to be my last check. Here's my bill. I'm no longer going to be here. And my phone started ringing off the hook to direct. It was directly. And so that one car that would pay me $50 was now paying me $200, $300, $400. And if I did 10 of those a month, there's $4,000 a month. Mm-hmm. And I had to do 10 cars instead of 60.
Right.
So it just fell into place. And a lot of times we let our fear, and I'm just going to say this, we let our fear get in the way of making the move that we should make to move forward and, get rid of fear. there's a podcast in the past here, we're talking about fear and overcoming fear, and just looking it in the face and saying, not today. You know what I mean? So and we're getting ready to wrap up here. We're going a little longer than I expected, but this has been really good. I love this. How does being a father influence your approach to leadership at work?
That's a great question. I mean, I don't know if I've ever thought about it. I think if anything, like being a father just taught me more patience. And so it's having patience, with my guys, and but also, I think if anything, it's helped me understand like everyone gets managed differently, right? So like I can be talking to my son, and one day I can tell him, he might be throwing a tantrum or be doing something, and I could get him to reason, settle with me, and I could get to his level, and he's like, oh, okay, like I'm better now. But then the next day, that same tactic might not work. And so it's required me to be, creative in how I approach every situation and understand that not every situation is going to get solved the same way.
Exactly. It's kind of like real estate.
Yeah.
Every transaction is different. Every situation is going to be different.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. So some takeaways. Let's talk about some takeaways. What's the most valuable leadership lesson you've learned over the span of get from the first day at seeing Meathead Movers till today?
I've always just been a big lead by example. I practice what I preach. I don't ask my guys to do anything that I haven't already done or do now. So practice what I preach, lead by example. I think that's always been a kind of a key pinnacle of who I am as an individual. You've seen, I'm not the most outspoken person in the world. Like I can have a conversation with people. I like to talk, in situations like this, but I lead by example. I put my right foot forward, and I'm present.
Okay. So and now I know the answer to this for me, because it's tough. Motivation, self-motivating, because you're pretty much, you're not really self-employed, but you have to be self-motivated because you're in a role 100%. That's up here and you're not in a group. So how do you stay motivated in such a demanding role?
Well, first and foremost, it's my why. It's my wife and kids, right? Like I want to make sure they have everything that they need, and I understand that in order to get them everything they need, I have to do. This is what I have to do. So staying up late to work on a project, or making that extra phone call, doing whatever I have to do to make sure, we're successful, and everything's lined up to make sure my kids and my wife have everything that they need and want. That's kind of the key thing that, again, that's what wakes me up. That's easy. But also, I've always just had that kind of sick mindset of I'm going to outwork you. No one's going to work harder than me at anything ever. And I will outwork you, and I'll find a way to outwork you, and I just want to be better than everyone. That can be seen as there's
nothing wrong with that as long as you keep it close to yourself.
Right, exactly. So that's always something that's just in the back of my mind. I want to be the best at everything, no matter what it is. And I understand that you can't be the best at everything. I don't know. I don't believe that. I think you can. It's all a matter of what you want to be the best at. So right now, I want to be the best, manager at developing business for a moving company. I want to be the best father. I want to be the best husband. And, it's just putting, that into my day, and that's just on the forefront at all time.
That's great. That's great thinking. And you and I are on the same page there. I went to court with an attorney, and we had to, and I've got a bum leg. Okay. And I don't run or exercise a lot, but we had to go from the federal courthouse to the DA's office, and then over to here in Fresno, and then over to the recorder's office, and then back. And we were walking 5 miles an hour, and that's a pretty good pace.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to keep up with this attorney because I don't want to be, You know, and was I dying the next day? Yeah. But you know what? I pushed forward. I said, we got to do this because I made a promise. I made a commitment to help this guy out.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not going to let him, he did kind of get there before me because he was a lot younger, like 20 years younger than me, but I still kept up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's what sometimes we have to do. There's pain sometimes in progress.
Yeah.
There's pain in sometimes in success. So, so what advice would you give someone starting out in a physically demanding job who wants to grow into leadership?
What advice would I give someone? I would say have clear and concise goals, and but I would also say know exactly what you're willing to sacrifice, what you're not willing to sacrifice. Right. Again, if you're someone, you're a hot shot straight out of college, no family, no kids type of thing, like dedicate your craft to it.
Mm-hmm.
You find yourself in a role where now you have, young kids and a family, know when to say no, to dedicate the time to them. And that's something that I know for a fact I need to improve at, because again, work is always on my mind, and those things are always on something I'm thinking about. And I know for a fact that there's times where I know hey, I should stop, I should put my phone down, and sometimes I just can't because I'm just obsessed.
We share that.
Yeah, but it's setting those expectations for yourself of hey, I understand this is what I need to do, but also what do you need to do to take care of everything at home too.
Right. Well, this has been really good because I'm seeing, know your sacrifice limits, clear and precise goals. So I'm going to give you a chance to plug where you're at, what you do. Where can listeners connect with you or learn more about Meathead Movers? Yeah.
So again, I'm Mike Bronze. I'm outside sales director for Meathead Movers. I oversee all soon to be 7 of our branches.
Nice.
And anyone can reach me directly at 559-940-4540. Our new Fresno operations warehouse is right here off Business 41, right next to Riverstone. And then mine in Tiago, for those who've met Tiago, who basically kind of replaced me here in town. He's the guy he's in person with everyone. He's in the home giving estimates to clients and building these relationships for us too. He's done fantastic work here and he developing relationships, maintaining ones and creating new ones as well. People can reach him directly, 559-753-9945.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike. One last final one-sentence encouragement for young professionals looking to grow in their careers?
It's work harder than people.
Work harder than everyone else. Yeah. That's it. Okay, Mike, hey, you know what? Thank you again for coming, man. This has been really powerful. I know we went 40 minutes. We only usually do 30.
That's all right.
But I leave it open to, if the conversation goes where it's supposed to go, we just let it happen. And you made it happen today. And again, I really appreciate you coming out.
No, absolutely.
And maybe we can get you back again on another topic.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, you listen. Everybody have a good day. Thanks for tuning into the Evans Legacy Financial Podcast. If you got value from today's episode, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us for more real conversations that move the needle in life and business. Until next time, keep building, keep growing, and never stop chasing what matters.